Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Being Your Brand live series. And I am really excited to have you all here, and especially very excited to have Richard here. But before I introduce Richard, what I would like to share is what Being Your Brand series is all about. It's basically a conversation with visionary founders, people who have successfully created impact and successfully got, created commercial, have got commercial success as well. So this is more conversations about, not really so much about the journey to how they got here. It's more about the being behind the brand. Who have you had to become to lead with this kind of self-identity, to create this kind of impact and commercial success? So today I am very, very excited to have Richard Moore here. Richard and I have known each other for a little while. So I am going to firstly read out a little bio. So bear with me as I literally read this up because Richard, I'm sorry, I haven't memorized this. Yeah.
That's fine.
So Richard Moore, an international sales strategist, keynote speaker, and renowned LinkedIn expert with over 22 years of experience. He has always been at the forefront of the sales industry with a sharp focus on high conversion strategies that drive results. As a respected coach and consultant, he's the go-to for businesses and individuals looking to fully leverage LinkedIn. Richard has worked with global leading organizations delivering powerful insights at events, webinars, and seminars, while consistently and concisely shedding light on LinkedIn's potential. And Richard has also, created his own products and community with the LinkedIn Accelerator and the Art of Sale. Right, so now I've actually known Richard for, I know we haven't got an exact number of years here, Richard, but it's definitely over 7 years.
Yeah, it was 2018, I think, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm, right. And we met at a very, very uninspiring, boring network event, and we happened to sit next to each other. And we connected on LinkedIn, and there is a silver lining to everything, isn't there, Richard?
Yes, there is.
And here we are today. And over those years, Richard, I've seen your visibility soar. And in that, observation of the years of, I think you've now grown to 108,000 followers on LinkedIn.
100 and something, yes. I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I have observed, you've had over those years a really grounded, consistent, energy that as you've been growing, soaring visibility wise, and the impact that you've been making, there's a real kind of consistency that's always been there. And that's where I'd like to actually start is, how have you become so consistent? And what actually has made you feel like this is the way to go for me?
Yeah, it's I think the root of consistency, there's probably two roots to it. One is wanting to do the thing, because that helps a lot. Forcing it is hard when you have to be consistent but don't want to. But I think the other thing is discipline. Discipline is what gets you consistency. So I suppose the real question, kind of unlock it, is kind of, I have to think through this as you're asking me, but where's the discipline come from? And I mean, the thing that surfaces most is my mother, because she was so disciplined and focused she was very driven to particular things she needed to get done as a mum, but also as a professional as well. And I think that definitely rubbed off on me. And if I look at the kind of the values that were instilled in us when my sisters and I, when we were teenagers, the things that stand out are like working hard, sure, but also excellence. And excellence requires discipline and being like at the coal face. And I think if I think about, it could partly be, and this is a very much more recent revelation of sorts, it could also be an element of neurodiversity that I have. and having had a child of my own who is, let's just call it very neurodivergent, it's opened my eyes to a kind of a hyper-focus thing that I've often had. And I've been able to kind of zone in on a thing. So that's for the moment, but in the moment I've been able to be consistent. But the question that I often ask myself is like, why do I tend to stick at something for a very long time? And I think it's because I think that the kind of the basics is I'm good at building a system or a routine, and then I streamlined it, adding that routine. So for instance, when we first connected, I was starting to do live streams. I did on Facebook and then on LinkedIn and so on. And I ran them every single month at 1 o'clock for 5 consecutive years. And so we did like 260 of them.
Wow.
And, we would book holidays around like, well, you can't travel then because you're doing your live stream kind of thing. It was very much when it's, and so there's a rigidity I had. And I think that's probably what's helped a lot. And, I think also there's my mother, again, like drawing from her, there's a stoicism there. It was like instant gratification wasn't a thing. And she always, if you look at things like money, her view, which was quite conservative, was if you don't have it, you don't get it. So if you want the thing, you have to go save for the thing or find the money. Like you don't just buy on credit all the time. So again, kind of a discipline there. And yeah, I'm kind of to round this out. If you look at the earliest kind of indicator of this kind of behavior was when I was would have been like 9.
Wow.
Because every week, just because this come to me, every week I got pocket money. My sisters and I would, within that minute, sprint to the end of the street because we had a little corner shop. Mr. and Mrs. Patel would say, "Here you are," and go and get your sweet. And we'd spend our money on sweets. And I remember I started accessing my inner nerd at that age, and I really started getting in. This is the late 80s, getting into computers. And I remember, this is absurd, but I love it. It's kind of endearing. I really wanted to buy Computer Shopper magazine, which was like £1 at a time. I wasn't going to buy anything for it, but I wanted to own it. So I had to make a choice. I'm so pleased I developed this part then, because I made a choice of no longer buying sweets each week and saving that money. And then each month I would buy a Computer Shopper, so I would learn about computers. And that turned into gaming. And I would have to watch my sisters have the sweets, and I wouldn't. But I'm like, but I get my thing. And so that early stoicism, I know this is a long answer, but that I think I've always had this kind of consistency thing, because I'm able to navigate to, and Art of Sell this last year has been building it. And I remember before I was like, it's going to take a lot of time, it will cost you a lot of money, and you may not get anything for a long time. But if you believe in the crusade you're on, or the mission you're on, then it's well, now doesn't matter nearly as much as the things I'm doing to map to the results. So consistency is not, when it's part of a kind of a higher purpose, as opposed to consistency tend to work as well with whimsy, if that makes sense.
Thank you for sharing that. And actually, look, somebody's actually said, the audio quality is a little bit choppy. Is that also coming from me, or is it from Richard? If somebody could just share that. And hello, everyone. Good to see some new faces and familiar faces. Okay. Right. We'll continue. We'll just wait for somebody to
we can make out what we're saying. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. I want to link that consistency to your business. And how has that actually now served you? Not even just today, but in the last few years, this consistency.
Let's take LinkedIn, because it's where we are right now, and a lot of people watching will know LinkedIn. So I've been doing the LinkedIn thing, so content to get visibility with the right people to then close deals since the start of 2018. And the thing is, because I've had to learn over the last decade or so some fundamentals on brand or marketing and communication, stuff like that. But one thing I did take in was an how to close and sell stuff. So it was a bit clunky to start with, but I could be consistent because I was getting a result. And I think a really good lesson here is if you ask me what what has been a reason why you're being consistent? It's like, well, if it's getting great results, it's hard to not do it, because I keep getting a return. And so for the audience, it's really important to say to yourself, what things could I be consistent at that I think are probably going to yield some returns? If I'm starting out with something, what could some returns look like? What's the accessible, low-hanging returns I could get from a level of consistency? That's kind of across all walks of life. Like if I go to the gym for the next 5-6 months and I go 3 times a week, I will probably yield a result. So that's something I feel I'll get. I mean, I just think from the word go, I was like, the opportunity was brilliant, and I got a great opportunity here. Or like, oh wow, I got this new gig. Or I just found like there's too much opportunity. It's like someone said on a session I was on last night. It's a gold mine, and I think it's by virtue of the fact that everyone's there, but also that you can get so much from just showing up. It's very hard to not come to basically my virtual ATM every day. Because there's so much that can come from it.
I love that.
Yeah, it is. And if you think about like the point I made a bit earlier, it's about the idea of systems, and the systems I'm putting in revolve around every day. Are there new people that I'm interacting with? Because when you interact with someone new, something great can come from that. And so I'm not like, I try to make sure I'm not in the same little tiny echo chamber all the time, and that seems to have helped.
Yeah. And actually, even just that point on consistency and the gym analogy, because there's also the whole sort of thing around frequency, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean if you are frequently online, but you're not consistent.
Yes.
And
different.
When I say consistent, I'm talking about consistent with your messaging, your positioning, and congruent with that.
Yes.
That is not going to, help with going to the ATM, the virtual ATM.
Yeah. And maybe it's an age thing as well. I don't know. But like I've just learned over the last few decades, like the best things don't always come immediately. And so whenever I start something, I don't just do it like, let's just try chase that shiny thing or that shiny thing. It's like, if you're going to do something new, do it properly. Again, a trait from my mother. If you can do it properly. So that will probably take time. So it's barely crossing my mind that I will get an instant blow up kind of win. And it's not that I don't have that in my mind. That would be nice, but I'm not mapping to that. I'm mapping to doing it properly. I think that's the thing. Like if you do things properly, often they do take time, and the best results come as a result of that. And so there needs to be that congruency, as you say. And if I'm going to test, for instance, a new thing, which will represent my brand, so test it, for months rather than, I didn't get a result this week, so I'll change. It's so common that people get upset with the system or with whatever they're doing because they don't get a result within, a few weeks. And it's like great returns come, transformational returns come from transformational efforts, and often a large amount of time. And it's such a consistent theme for everyone.
Absolutely, which nicely actually goes into, and I wrote a post this morning around earn the right, because again, it isn't about just because we've got a website, just because we've put up some post, or we've created some services and products that gives us, as you would say, also entitlement to just be like, right, that means you have to work with me. And I love, your words of earn the right. It's like they've been really drummed into me, and it creates a way of being almost in that sense, because there is no expectation, entitlement. I have to earn the right to be the obvious choice.
Every day, from zero, in everything. And if you already have an earned right, well, that's a lovely bonus. But starting as though, for instance, with content, starting as though no one's going to look and no one cares, which broadly represents how people tend to feel about us, is a really good way to look at things. If you have this expectation that people should want your thing because you work so desperately hard on building it, like you don't deserve people to buy your thing just because you worked hard on it. And that's one of the worst sayings ever. is build it and they will come. It's totally entitled. It should be build it, then go warm people up and nurture and hope for the best of it, and like learn and iterate and evolve and bring them to your place, and eventually they might then come. You know, it's there's a lot more to it than that. But I think also earn the right is crucial in the mind of the buyer and audience as well. This is an emotional earning of the right too, and that's really where brand for me matters. And you know, you're the expert on this. But for me, I really feel that you have to have them kind of fall in love with you and what you stand for and your ethos and so on, so much more than just turning out a great product, which doesn't excuse turning out a great product as well. But it is not, statistically, it's not the reason why people are buying your thing. They're buying your thing because it's cooler, there's halo effect, they feel they're going to win more because of you, they are into you somewhat, they see you as aspirational, whatever it might be. Not because you used more efficient whatever to build the thing. There's so much more emotion in it, and so earning the right is about capturing the kind of the inspiration side of things in their hearts. And it sounds really woo, but actually that is very, it can be done very tactically, can't it? By following a certain process to make sure you're showing up, and consistency is certainly part of that.
Absolutely. And because, you know, this live conversation is about being your brand and the person behind it. So what happens, Richard, or how do you navigate? You know, you've done the work to earn the right, be consistent, shown up all in the right places. And, you know, as it does for all of us business owners, sometimes it doesn't go to plan. Sometimes there's a setback, there's a detour, there's rejections, objections. How does Richard manage and handle and navigate those?
There's a lot of brutal inner voice going on when things don't work out. And I've done a lot of work on myself over the years, a lot of training. And there's a little boy in me 15, 20 years ago who had been whining, complaining, and it's not fair and all that kind of thing. And I deserve it and all that rubbish. But now my default setting is crazy. Like, it's the words are always there. It's bring it on. Right. It's feedback. And I often, and then like the next thing I often say to myself, I said this to someone yesterday actually, which is, you wanted to run a business, welcome. This is what happens. This is a challenge. Like, it's the point. If you want the freedom of calling all the shots and being in charge of your destiny and designing your world, like, yeah, it's hard. Otherwise we'd all be doing it. Or go work for someone and they'll decide for you, but you don't have any freedom then, in my opinion. So I have this perverse like smile when it goes wrong. Like, good, this is like the challenge that I signed up for. And you know, Art of Sell has been great, but then dips and ups and downs, and because we're building a thing, and like we've got a team, and we're trying to build something huge with 100,000 members, and it will be like wicked. But at the same time, any of these biographies on my top shelf here, they're all the same. It's just like so much stuff you have to go through, and I'm like, bring it on. This is part of it, and it's feedback. To be more useful in answering the question, it's feedback and it's humbling. And there is ego, which we all have if we feel we're good at stuff, but at the same time, we have to be humbled all the time. And I think it's really healthy. I don't like it, but it's really healthy to be humbled by the game and be reminded. I love being reminded that you're not all that. And that's not comparative to other people. It's comparative to the game, which is where like, it's like, I thought this would work and it didn't. But hey, that 3% worked. So how are we going to iterate? And like, I love that. I do embrace the challenge. And I think that's how I manage myself quite a bit. And if I can try and articulate this, where in my opinion, a lot of people go a bit wrong is when they come across something hard, they're like going, I'm no good. I can't do anything. The world's happening to me. But instead it's like, well, let's objectify it more. The problem is a thing here. It's not me. The problem may be something I have to change about myself, but it's not like the world hates me and oh, woe is me, I'm no good. It's like the problem needs fixing. The problem might be that you need to tune or improve parts of you, but like, don't cry, like go fix the thing, you know, because almost everything is fixable. Almost everything is fixable. You just got to know where to go or what to do, or be willing to push a bit more or try something else, and being willing to recalibrate back down to zero and go again takes you know, you have to have some nerve. You have to be like, okay, let's go again. I fell all the way down the mountain. I have to start over. And like, again, that's what you signed up for. That's the point. If you want to ride, you know, like there's other ways of doing it. But I think if you push yourself and challenge yourself and you want to have some real impact with whatever bit you build, then half the course. And like, I really feel like when I started embracing that, I was like, okay, so the potholes are part of it. That's the point. And I think it's just just on biographies, the biography that nailed that so well was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, so founder of Nike. And he just like talked about all of these ups and downs that got in there. But when they IPO'd and they became like overnight crazy millionaires, he was like, the only thought I had was I wanted to do it all over again because I loved how it was all of these challenges and that resonated quite a lot. So that's been around an answer for you.
Amazing, thank you. Well, business definitely isn't for the faint-hearted, and I always kind of feel like business is the quickest journey to self and personal development, you know, in that sense. And just adding on to what you said, because, you know, there is never this linear line. And I do also see it like everything, the challenges, the wins, the rejections, all of it is actually data for evolution.
Yeah, it is. And that's feedback we need. Like, great, I got feedback. If someone says no, right, feedback, then that's good. And like I say, it's humbling when you but the right way to look at it is feedback rather than rejection. It's feedback. So the response I just got, for instance, on a sales call, if I got a response that was negative, well, if I can learn from that, I've just made the next one better, as long as I'm not an idiot doing the same thing again. And so I just think it should be it's that whole thing of like viewing errors and rejection and mistakes as problems as opposed to things you can correct and feedback you can use. I just think it's just part of it. It just doesn't always feel right, but that's because we've got fragile egos half the time. We need to work on developing. But you're right. And I remember thinking, like, when I first started selling in 2003 professionally, it was so interesting that it was like this crash course on learning about myself and learning about like what resilience is and learning about like how other people tick and communication. And it was because I was just at it all day, every day. It's really, I think business is so powerful for discovering yourself. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's a self-awareness journey. Talking about that, you know, mindset and self-development, self-awareness, how do you stay on top of it? Or what do you have any specific kind of practices, rituals, or anything that you do to, you know, continue to sharpen the saw, as they say?
When I was in my early to mid 20s, I was incredibly fortunate to be around salespeople and sales managers. The reason why, and of course there's a lot of idiots, fine, a lot of characters, but there's a lot of excellence. And it was there where I started to learn about belief and self-talk. And people just think it's a job, but a bit like an actor, it's a performance. The job is performing. No matter how hard your world's going, you have to be able to turn it on just like that. And when it's the end of the month and the target needs hitting, I loved this thing of like, our backs are to the wall, let's go fight. You know, let's go, like, and it's that mindset thing. Now, if you couple that with the fact when I was 19, it's the end of the 90s, I started Taekwondo. And especially as I rose through the belts in Taekwondo and started doing tournaments in my mid to late 20s, that were like not a cutesy little local one, like nationals and Europeans.
Yeah.
Those tournaments really required a lot from me in terms of focus, but also belief and visualization. And so if you look at where I am now, every morning I have a routine, which is about finding the quiet for myself. And specifically, it's worth picking out that if I have a really stressful day ahead, if there's a project or there's a problem with something or something went wrong or whatever it might be, no matter how much pressure there is within the box of my working hours that I'm soon to be accessing, I still have that routine in the morning. So I'm still I do, there's a number of things I do in the morning, but part of it is I will look at my calendar and I will visualize what I'm going to go through in that day. I will tell myself and I'll look at and imagine how I'm going to close a sale, but I will also, and I've always done this, it's been really interesting, I will also visualize the downside and stuff not going right, and I play it out a lot. I think that was really started with the selling, because you have to think on your feet, and when you're in a sales call and your job is to close in the moment, you learn to map 3 courses at once. Like if I said this, where would it probably take me? And it's not a conscious dialogue, but it's a feeling of, I think if I say this kind of thing, it will take me there. So I'm holding in my head different ways in which outcomes might happen. And it's just a skill that I do. But yeah, every morning I have this kind of focus on quiet. And I'm not like, quiet isn't sitting, reading, having a cup of tea. It's like inner quiet, and I will sit and I have time set aside. I set an alarm before the family wakes up, and I will just spend time with myself. And I think what's powerful about that is that it helps you with your focus, but it also helps you genuinely hear yourself. Maybe it comes with age, therapy, and all that kind of thing. But I have, I think certainly in the last 10 years, I'm mid-40s now. In the last 10 years, I've spent a lot of time developing this sense of being able to genuinely hear myself. And what's interesting is when genuinely in the quiet, your kind of inner dialogue, what you really feel and what you're really thinking starts to surface. It's stunning how easily you can mute that, because there's other stimuli. It's kind of crazy how quickly that can be quietened, and we need to give ourselves space to listen to it each day.
Definitely, and it does fuel creativity as well. Just curious, what time do you wake up, Richard?
So I was a 5 a.m. club guy. I'm 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock gives me time to do my full routine, and then I'm focused on being a dad and taking my girls to school, doing packed lunches and stuff like that. But I do I have from 6 till past, especially. There's no need for breakfast. I don't need to check Instagram. There are no emergencies online, is a really good saying. My focus instead is like get in the garden and go to like my little gym I've got, and like I do a bit of yoga and stretching, but then I will spend like, it's not long, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just sitting with my thoughts and considering the day ahead, because the plan is always to win the day. Absolutely. And I find that with that routine, you see, if you don't have routine, and I see it, like I have friends who do this, they get up and the first thing they do is check their phone. It's like you're instantly putting yourself into react mode against someone else's agenda. But I'm like, no, I will start the day my way. And I think it's a really powerful way to steer into success. I think by having a sense of what's coming up.
Yeah, otherwise, it's a very scattered approach as opposed to prioritized and focused. And actually something that you just touched on, it very much reminded me of my late spiritual mentor, and he used to be like, look, Aarti, write down potential other scenarios, good, bad, and then role play the dialogue of these, and that it's so crucial to do that, because it just starts equipping you with, okay, if they say that, this is what I can say. If they say that, this is what I can say. And it just comes then from a place of much more confidence, right? Rather than that kind of thing.
It's amazing. It's amazing how easily we can synthesize a conversation with someone without actually having it. I can picture what this session or what my next interaction is going to look like to a degree. I may not even know the person, but I can have a sense of like what it might look like. And Richard Branson, in one of his biographies, said, always cover the downside. Covering the downside is precisely that. A lot of people, entry level visualization and and things like that is, I want to visualize winning. It's like, that's cool, well done. But like, what about the stuff that doesn't work? It's same with selling. A lot of people know precisely what to do if someone says yes. But what about when things don't work out? And again, this comes back to that original thing at the top of this session of being consistent, being disciplined is about saying, it's not lowering your aspirations, but about saying to yourself, like, it'd be great if things went well. That's cool. But what happens when this goes wrong, or what's my exit route for that? And I think that allows you to minimize risk and not make really silly decisions. And again, this is about, it sounds like I'm not being spontaneous, but I want to just do stuff properly. And, you know, there's no overnight success for anyone ever in the history of being a human. So like, you might as well play the game properly. Rather than be, otherwise you're just deluded that you can get a quick win and it'll all be fine because you drank the Kool-Aid of a bunch of people's posts, which is the problem.
Yeah. And you've already highlighted, you know, one of your brand values is clearly excellence, and you live and breathe that, and you know, take that through into action. Right, I've got a couple of questions here before we completely wrap up. So we've got Victor, who has said, if I may ask, can anyone explain what they mean by landing deals on LinkedIn? Because I've been hearing that a lot. And if there is more to explain, I'll appreciate it, because it looks like I'm an alien on LinkedIn hearing these things. I'll give that over to you, Richard.
So landing deals on LinkedIn, another way to put it is moving to a place with an individual, and there are a billion apparently on LinkedIn, moving to a place with an individual where you decide you're going to work together. Now, if you look at basic truths, Victor, all the people you'll ever do a deal with probably are on LinkedIn, right? A lot of them, more than you will ever need, are actually active on LinkedIn and watching. So the question is, what are you going to say? And so then it gets exciting, and that's where you probably have something to share, Aarti. If I can build the right brand, and if I may add specificity, if I can be the right person to the right people, then they will first be attracted to me, second, stay in orbit around me, and like I said earlier, kind of fall in love somewhat with what I'm standing for and the point I'm making. But crucially, thirdly, that will give me the opportunity to start nurturing an interaction. This isn't spamming. This is about building a connection the way a human organically would in the offline world, and borrowing cues from that. And landing deals is you having a proposition that solves a problem, you meeting them where they are in terms of they have frustrations that your content suggests it can help with, and in turn them feeling like you're the one that will make the difference, and transform them from where they are now to a place where that frustration no longer exists. And you get it right, it becomes a thing that you can do daily. It's really lovely that I don't have to do what I used to do, which is this is my age right here. Like 22 years ago, there was a phone directory and a phone, and I had to dial, and that's my thing. And I knew nothing about these people apart from the position, the number. I had nothing. Whereas now it doesn't get easier than me. I mean, it possibly could, but like, it doesn't get easier than I know everything about people from their profile. I can see they're active. I even see what they last wrote on LinkedIn. Like, it's so easy compared to how it used to be. Yeah. Like, you just get so much given to you. You can even watch a video on the person you want to interact with and sell to, and have a sense of the person. Like, this is such a gift. But you just got to learn how. It's not about how to use LinkedIn, though, is it? You'll agree, surely. This is about the rules of engagement for interacting with other humans. And ultimately what it comes down to is understanding that if you can tap into an experience for them that they would like to have, that they would end up with them buying, as opposed to forcing on them what you want to happen, which is that they just buy. Instead, you need to take them through that process and make them feel like that they love this process. When you get that right, you understand what really matters to the audience rather than you just getting money. It ends up being a really fulfilling process for both parties, and you of course get results as well. And that's a lot of what your world is, isn't it, Aarti?
Yeah, absolutely. You've absolutely nailed that. And in addition to that, what I would add is what I call the transference of trust.
Yes.
We've got to remember it's never just going to be one post, one conversation, that's going to be like, right, okay, I want to buy from you. There's always going to be, people are going to be at different journeys of the transference of trust. So you as a business owner have to continuously be thinking and asking, what am I doing to transfer trust today? Who am I being? What am I saying to whom? And what reason am I giving them to trust me?
Yeah, because no deal ever happened without trust, and everyone must understand this, that the seed of trust is familiarity. You trust someone you're familiar with. Now, familiarity has a spectrum. I can be familiar with a serial killer because I saw them in the news a lot. Am I going to trust them? Or rather, I'm not going to kind of want to be around them. So you have to recognize that it's familiarity, so reps, consistency, and yes, some frequency with the right people, but again, in the right way. It's no use being familiar to an audience for the wrong things. If I'm the funny, jokey one that's always like having a laugh, but my ideal customer needs to be the serious, measured person because I'm going to help them with counter-terrorism negotiation. And I had a customer once who did that. Like, I won't buy from you. It's great knowing you, and I trust you and love. Like, oh, you're really familiar, but I need you to be the person that I'm going to feel reassured by spending my money with. And I think that nuance needs to be thought of as well. But yeah, you've got it.
Absolutely.
I think that makes sense.
Are you okay to answer a couple of more questions, Richard?
Of course,
I'm just conscious of your time. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Right, so the other question, Mohammed, I'm going to leave yours till after this question. Richard, as your personal brand has grown globally, how have you balanced visibility, scalability with staying deeply connected to your audience on a personal level, especially on a platform like LinkedIn that is relationship driven? Wonderful question.
That is such a great question, and I'm so pleased it came up, especially with the climate that LinkedIn has created. It's also a really easy question to answer. Let's look specifically at words he's used. How have you balanced visibility and scalability? Visibility is being seen, scalability, growth of that, with staying deeply connected to your audience on a personal level? The answer, Praveen, is that I've not focused on visibility and scalability of my brand. I've focused instead on being deeply connected with my audience on a personal level. And it is hard as a human being who has an ego, we all do, to see people rocketing past in the game of visibility and scalability of that brand. But I've chosen impact for individuals, because for me, I don't need thousands of leads. I need a few of the right people to buy me a high ticket. That's my thing. Let them have the visibility. Let them go viral. Good for them. And I hope it works out. But I've never chased growth hacking, high visibility or anything like that. And if it happens, it happens. And like proportionate to other people who have a similar following to me. I have a woeful amount of engagement, but I just don't care, because the reason we're all here, unless we lie to ourselves, the only reason we're here is for client acquisition. And ultimately client acquisition is about two people coming together eventually to decide to work together. So I map to those outputs. I'm not paid as an influencer to get a bunch of likes or views on a post. I know some people have worked with me a bit in the past and that kind of thing, but that's not my business model. My business model is how I interact with individuals and being hyper tactical, but also strategic about the kind of people I reach out to. So visibility, obviously I have to be seen by some people, but I just don't care about being famous and scaling that. It just doesn't matter. And what's interesting is, for most people, when they start getting deals, they start feeling the same. It just doesn't matter. What matters is you get the results. And again, this is I feel something that happens as we get older. It's not about the money, it's about the impact and the legacy. And like, what am I doing good? And am I genuinely helping people in a good way? And like, am I in 40 years time going to look back and go, oh man, like people were doing like superfluous fluffy things and caring about how they looked basically. But I did this thing that genuinely transformed or impacted other people. And I think, you know, there's Jeff Bezos that had that, what was it? Regret minimization framework. And the idea is when I'm 80, I want to look back and have minimal regrets. And so that should influence the thing I'm doing right now. And hope that answers your question. Just choose the latter. It matters to me more.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And you know what I see here, and something to learn from Richard. There's a real inner alignment with Richard and an inner knowing, because every word you said there, you know, with conviction, with that understanding, that comes from a place of inner knowing. And this comes back down to that, you know, knowing yourself as well.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter which platform, whether it's LinkedIn, whether you're offline, in-person networking, this will surface, this will show. You know, I always like to say brand is an energy, it is felt and it is experienced in that sense. Wonderful. Thank you,
But don't
Richard.
you think, I was going to add, just don't you think though, it's a journey we all need to go on to rid ourselves of the I should do this, or external influences are making me feel I'm meant to do this. When the journey we need to go on is one where we arrive at like, but what do I actually want? Genuinely me, not by influence of other people's narratives. I think that probably is how you get with brands.
Yeah, and it's also then looking out for those signals, because I've been in those places where I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Let me try that. And it's epically failed in that sense. Or, you know, data for evolution in that, you know, but the signals for it, and now I know it because I've been through it, was like, this just sometimes feels a little bit too good to be true, or there's a little bit of misalignment. It feels a bit more harder work than I thought. And, you know, there are signals when there is that sort of misalignment. But like you said, you know, when you go through the journey, you start picking them up and then you learn from them. Right, we've got last two questions.
Okay. Quick fire round.
Yes, go. Right, I'm still leaving the other one to last because I'm going to combine my question with that one. Right, Mark, there is so much automation on LinkedIn now. Thoughts on how to stand out from AI-generated content, post, comments, DMs?
I answered this for someone yesterday. So you were there, actually, Aarti. So yeah, it's an AI-dominated content, and the AI-generated content is bringing value. So listen to the words I'm giving. Really, it's really important. Value was unique several years ago because no one was doing anything on LinkedIn. Value is cheap now. Value is easy. I'm literally regurgitating the answer I gave last night. So sorry, you've heard it before.
I love this answer. Listen carefully to this.
Value is cheap and easy because ChatGPT can do it for us without us thinking. But the evolution, so what you should bring to stand out instead of value is insight. Because the thing is, Mark, insight is your actual lived experience. So I did a post to make this point yesterday, and it started with in 2020, it was when I was 24, that's what it was. When I was 24, I closed a deal with Deloitte. Here's how I did it. You could argue that's value, sure, but it's insight too. It's data from the front line. It's something I've gone through that someone else hasn't. ChatGPT can make AI can make amazing posts that are stacked with value, but they aren't typically from one person's perspective. They could be catch-all because that's how they're generated from the LLMs. So insight is how you stand out. When I worked at this company, here's the thing that happened. When I did a deal with this company, here's what happened. I worked with this senior leader recently and we had this outcome. Here's how I did it. Insight. And now people see you as their expert and they see you thinking a bit higher than the kind of the more generic platitude. So that is the difference. Same in your DMs, same in your comments. comments shouldn't be like, yeah, great, inspiring and things like, we can do it. It should be instead, totally understand what's going on in this post. Well done. Here's my 2 cents. Like Aarti did it perfectly a bit earlier. If you were listening, her wording was, and what I would add is, and so when she added her thing, she's added insight from her experience, and that's the difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Right. Last question from Mohammed. What if you could start your LinkedIn branding? What are the top 5 things you decided to do first that you learned after practical experience? In this answer, Richard, whether it's 3 to 5, I'd also like you to add one in that talks about how we can be more consistent, something along those lines.
Yeah, 5 we might not have time for. So a few things. Firstly, decide what you're going to do, and that the way I put it is you have a contract with yourself. It's now decided I will be doing this. So my consistency is locked in. I don't get to choose on a random Tuesday if I'm going to do this or not, because I'm doing it. I decided, it's done, it's happening. So that consistency is locked in. Secondly, don't worry about the branding for the masses. That's just the narrative the influencers tell you. Focus, because if this is day one, I want cash, right? Focus on the way your brand is for the individual. So job one is like start conversations with people, because you can build a brand with an individual, right? And like it starts there. You're not going to do it all in one day anyway. So building brick by brick does it properly. So focus on that. But also I would add, it's important, I mentioned this a bit earlier, to have some quiet time with yourself. What do I actually stand for? Because I need to share my philosophy on the things I believe, and that's the content. It's so like, if I shared 5 top or the top 10 people in whatever space, it's like I'm just a conduit for other people's brands. No one's coming to me for other people's stuff. They're coming to me for my thoughts, insights, and my sermon, essentially. So it makes sense to me to say, here's my view of the world, and here's why I believe that way. So give some logical rationale behind your opinion or commentary against the topic you help people with, and they'll get it. They'll be like, I see what he talks about. It's clearly for me because he said that, but also I like how he's put it, and that will give you the opportunity to start having more conversations as well. Those are at least some starters, but it's not the answer people like, because that's what people often, and I'm sure this isn't you, Mohammed, but what a lot of people want really is, how do I get massive exposure and go viral? And it's like, no, why? What you need is people to buy your thing, and then you can afford to develop in that direction with impact further down the line, like all things in the right order.
Beautiful, powerful nuggets as always, Richard. And in that quiet time, also asking yourself, what do you want to be known for? Because then that's where you can really intentionally create and curate content, your positioning, how your voice, your messaging around that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
If your answer to that is, I just want to be famous, or I want to be an influencer, then there's probably some more inner work that needs doing.
Yeah, and that's going to be short-lived, right? If you're really looking to build a legacy brand with longevity, with impact, short-lived quick wins isn't going to get you there. Right, Richard. Thank you so much. As always, it's always a joy to speak with you. How can people get in touch? Where can we point them to?
Thank you. Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. We're connected, of course. There's linkedin.com/in/Richard James Moore, all one word. Or if you go to artofsell.co, you can see me there and learn more about what we do in our program. And if you really desperately want to learn lots more about me and my blog and that, then there's therichardmoore.com.
Yeah, wonderful. Never get bored of learning from you, Richard. Thank you again. And thank you to everybody that came on, stayed, asked questions, participated. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to leave any questions or insights that you've taken away. Take care. There will be a recording. See you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.